Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I love how many of you reached out to join this 9-week immersion of the Intimacy Alchemy. So, this is 9 weeks of a lot of information. I'm always available to answer any questions that come up as we make our way through the material. But this is week one, developing an intimacy mindset. So, hello, I'm Catherine. I hope all of you know who I am by now, but if not, my name is Catherine. I'm an intimacy therapist. My mission in everything that I do and all the work that I put out on social and in the world is to help improve your romantic relationships, to help create more peace at home. I truly believe that everything starts at home. So, if we can help give you the tools and the knowledge to help explore and learn so that you feel more empowered and confident with connecting with others, we make the world a better place. Developing an intimacy mindset. What does that mean? Before we go into the definition, I just want to take a second to acknowledge this photo on the left. Your relationship should feel like a safe haven, not a battlefield. The world is hard enough. This is really encapsulating my entire mission to help create more understanding and love and support within your relationship so that you feel more equipped and more resilient in facing the struggles of the world because we all know that the world is a pretty stressful place. So, if you can feel nourishment from your relationships, that will create more ability to handle the stressors that daily life likes to bring you. First of all, what is intimacy? So, I want you to take 2 minutes to write down all of your ideas around what intimacy means to you. So, I want you to pause this video and just on a piece of paper, take 2 minutes to write down all of your ideas around what is intimacy to you. You can press play when you're ready to continue with the lesson. I don't really like to define things with a hard definition because I think things are constantly changing and evolving. So I'm creating the opportunity for you to be open to an open definition of intimacy. So far, in the various versions that I've come up with, it's the ability to feel seen, heard, and understood as the most authentic version of yourself, the bravery of committing to the development of mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and energetic closeness. It's also the pursuit of knowing yourself and another in a multidimensional way. So, intimacy is not sex. And I think that's where a lot of confusion comes from when I say I'm an intimacy therapist. People immediately assume I'm a sex therapist. And really, there's this whole world of connection that we often miss because we are often not taught the interpersonal skills needed to develop deep intimacy. So, these are three just iterations of what intimacy can encompass. And I hope that they continue to just evolve and show up in your own definition of what intimacy is for you. So, intimacy is multidimensional. It not only includes physical intimacy, it includes mental intimacy, emotional intimacy, spiritual intimacy, energetic and functional intimacy. So, again, I'm going to have you do another writing assignment. I'm going to have you pause and take 5 minutes. So, you'll set a timer for 5 minutes. And just under each of these categories, I want you to create some examples of what each of these categories could include. So pause the video and then restart it when you're ready to continue with the lesson. Physical intimacy, again, is not just about sex. It's about physical touch. It's about, are you comfortable holding hands with each other in public? Are you comfortable sitting near each other? Physical closeness, physical proximity. Do you enjoy hugging? Physical touch is a part of physical intimacy. Do you feel comfortable kissing, being seen kissing? All of these concepts are a part of physical intimacy. Mental intimacy, to me, means intellectually stimulating your life. Do they challenge you? Do they have a growth mindset? Are they seeking growth, self development? Mental intimacy can also be intellectual intimacy. So, again, are they challenging you? Are they causing you to want to learn more, grow more, be better versions of yourself mentally, intellectually? Emotional intimacy is perhaps one of the most important that is often missed. It's the feeling of being able to really come to your partner to talk about what's going on in their own experience, in your own experience, knowing that they will be there to support that process. Lots of times we don't really develop in this area. um, think about the last time that you were asked what emotion you're feeling today. It might be kindergarten, might be the last time that you were asked, what specific emotion do you feel today? Where you have that chart of being able to identify, am I sad? Am I happy? So basically, lots of us are operating from a really low level of kindergarten emotional capacity. So, developing emotional intimacy is again feeling understood, seen, and heard as the emotional experience that you're having when you interact with daily life. The world is stressful. Sometimes you need to emotionally decompress, of course, in your own way. But having someone to support that process is super important and vital for continuing to increase your connection. I also want to point out that there's these two different examples of a tree trunk and an orange. The tree trunk is to represent that, yes, this might be a relationship, but how many layers, how many circles are actually involved in the structure of this tree trunk is an important analogy to make when it comes to knowing that intimacy is multidimensional. Same with the orange. Intimacy, physical intimacy might just be one part of the whole orange, but there's all a bunch of areas that make up the whole orange. Spiritual intimacy, this is not just religion or being spiritual. It's, am I connected to something greater than myself? Do I live a life of meaning and purpose? Energetic and functional intimacy is, how do you navigate conflict? Are you compatible with the responsibilities that you have in your relationship dynamic, maybe at home or at work or paying the bills? Energetic intimacy, same thing. Is there a good receiving giving dynamic happening here? Or does it feel imbalanced? So these are the five dimensions of intimacy that we will continue to unravel with each lesson every single week. But it's just good to start bringing awareness to the fact that there are more than just a physical component to relationships that are vitally important for the health and the sustainability of your dynamic. So now we are at an intimacy mindset definition and a visual to support this. Intimacy mindset is nurturing the multidimensional experience. So we just covered the five dimensions of intimacy. So it really takes nurturing those areas to feel like you're in an intimacy mindset. It's also a mutual reciprocal effort of giving and receiving love and support. These two people are supporting each other. They seem, really strong. They're built well, really strong on their own, but they're also supporting each other's gardens. They're watering each other's minds. This is an intimacy mindset. It's having trust in knowing that this person is holding your best interest in mind. Although there will probably be bumps or mountains that we climb through the development of deepening intimacy, you always have the best intention in mind as far as this person's heart, mind, body, soul, every part of them. You are seeking to know and understand them at a very deep level. And it's also a commitment to the development and understanding. So, again, in you committing to the development and understanding, there's going to be some potholes, there's going to be some bumps, there's going to be some mountains. That is a part of unraveling a lot of the things, the programs, the beliefs that have actually kept you from deepening connection with lots of different people in your life. The last thing I want to say is relationships offer an opportunity for you to see something reflected in the other person that you haven't yet explored within yourself. So, the person that is in front of you, to the side of you, your partner, is going to be the best teacher that you can have for growth, for ascension of yourself. Relationships are triggering. Those potholes, those bumps, those mountains are not fun to go through. They're not fun to climb. They're not fun to experience, but they're part of learning to understand yourself at a very deep level. This picture is really important. Really, really, really important because lots of times social media does a really good job of this. They show you what you see on the surface: love, goals, chemistry, effortless bliss, happiness, compatibility. But what is actually happening under the surface that we don't spend time talking about is that maybe this person, maybe one of the people have a mental illness or they're struggling mentally, right? Mentally, emotionally, physically. I don't actually like the term mental illness because I think oftentimes it's like a lot of stuff's happening internally that feels really chaotic that causes an external behavior, which we like to slap a label on. So, coping with something that you're dealing with that people don't often see, having hard conversations, navigating triggers, sitting with uncertainty, healing trust issues or past wounding, having the patience through it all, learning to communicate your wants and needs. So, true deep intimacy is navigating this rough terrain on the right hand side, knowing that with each bump, pothole, or mountain, you are just up leveling your ability to know this person at a deeper level. So, within every strong relationship are lots of pieces that we do not see. So, please, please, please don't compare yourself to what you see as perfect in social media or what you perceive to be that is a goal relationship. Your experience is perfectly designed for you, and it is ultimately always possible for you to achieve your dream relationship, but staying in your lane, focusing on you and your partner will really help you to achieve your goals with relationships. So triggers are events that make you experience an emotion. It doesn't necessarily even have to be such a negative emotion like mad, sad, distressed, but these are often markers of unhealed wounding. So when I'm saying triggers in your relationship, it's something that happens in your dynamic that causes you to experience an emotion that may be unpleasant. And what a trigger is, it's like your nervous system, which we will cover in week 2, it's shining a flag. It's like, hey, this doesn't feel good. We need to look at this. And just reframing that belief from "I'm mad, it's your fault" to "I'm mad, what is this experience showing me?" is huge, profound, and an evolution of yourself already, just to switch that mindset from "it's you" to "it's actually me" from a past experience being triggered and giving me information on what I need to heal moving forward. So again, it's not your partner that is causing all this chaos within you. It's what they're reflecting back to you about yourself that needs to be addressed in order for you personally to move through the lesson of what they're here to teach you. And vice versa. You're going to trigger things in them, and it's their responsibility, or if you're watching this with your spouse, it's the other person's responsibility to say, it's actually not your fault. It's what this situation is representing for me that I need to look at in order to move past or move through or integrate this part of my ego or past trauma that I haven't yet processed. This is another amazing visual of just what we saw on the last slide. So people see, or maybe you see, this is the argument that we had last night. This is on the surface. This is what it was about. Like, oh, he left his sweaty socks at the door again, and he never picks them up, and he always leaves them there for me. So you see that on the surface, but really truly underneath what that experience or that trigger represented for you is days of not communicating or prioritizing connection, not acknowledging the little things that you do for each other, assuming that they don't care about you, stress from the whole day, from work, from taking care of kids, etc. You're both dehydrated or hungry. And the biggest part is that you're forgetting that you're in this together on the same team. So, conflict or those triggers help us to recognize that there's a potential for growth and understanding in your own experience. Developing a deeper intimacy means that you're willing to look under the surface at what's really going on. So, say you have an argument, if you can reframe your experience of conflict, which conflict management is in another module, I'm just introducing it to you. If you can see conflict as an opportunity to become curious about, oh, this came up for us. What does this really represent? It's not about the socks at all. It's like, oh, I'm not feeling acknowledged for the little things that I'm doing on a daily basis that are how I show love. I don't feel like you are seeing me. If you're not in a relationship and this comes up with someone you're dating, maybe you're trying super, super hard and they're rejecting you. It's an opportunity for you to say, what is it about this situation that is causing me to experience a significant emotional response? So just getting curious about this conflict or trigger and really saying, I'm going to go take my magnifying glass and see what's under the surface so that I can continue to develop a deeper understanding and intimate experience for yourself. Okay. So now that we know what an intimacy mindset is, where do we start? The ability to deeply know another begins with the desire to deeply know ourselves. So we have this great foundation of understanding that intimacy is a multidimensional experience. It has multiple facets that we need to nourish in order to feel deeply seen, heard, and understood. But in order to really understand and be able to communicate needs and wants and why you're experiencing triggers, you have to develop a deep understanding of yourself first so that you can communicate from a place of knowing yourself. So you start here. So, watering yourself. Again, we will cover more of these things in future modules. These are just introductions of what an intimacy mindset is. It's being intimate with yourself, starting to understand and say, oh, I have this trigger. I'm going to work to incorporate it, heal it in myself so I can stop projecting it onto other people. Or there's this incredibly powerful visual on the right of a man who is seemingly angry, right? And then he takes off this part of his mask and he's like very angry. And then he takes off the anger mask and it's that he's sad. And he takes off his sad mask and it's a child that is living inside that's wounded. And that wounded child is who is triggered. It's triggering something that most likely happened when you were younger that is unhealed. And so, this unhealed story or this narrative that you're telling yourself, oftentimes at an unconscious or subconscious level, is starting to become projected onto relationships, onto situations in your life that are holding you back from your highest potential. So, I'm just taking a second to let you guys have these images sink in that this is where you start. The more you understand why this situation is triggering you because it reminded you of a past experience when you were little and you felt abandoned, it makes why you are becoming upset in a specific situation as an adult make so much more sense. Again, on the left, it's like your partner's not responsible for watering your garden all the time. That's codependency. We're expecting them to take care of you. It's it's definitely a mutual experience when you're both taking care of, supporting, nurturing each other, but if you're not taking care of yourself, you don't even have this watering can, you're like, "They're just gonna take care of me." that creates a lot of resentment and depletion on both parties over time. So it's really in your best interest to start to water your own mind garden, your own body, your own experience, so that you can show up in a relationship of mutual support, love, and understanding. So, okay, now that we've seen the last visual, what are some actionable steps to be able to start taking care of ourselves first? The first one is self-awareness. We sprinkled this in the first part of the presentation, but your ability to perceive and understand your own experience as an individual. So that trigger comes up, you notice it's there, and you say, I'm aware. I remember that Catherine said a trigger is a marker of something that needs to be healed within myself. Just that self awareness is so epic. So epic. So I'm going to say self awareness a lot throughout those 9 weeks because self awareness, if you're not aware of something, you can't change it. So the more curious you are, the more you seek to understand or bring stuff to your awareness, the more that you can move through and heal it so that it doesn't just keep showing up in your life. So start paying attention to what triggers you in your relationship. And you have access to this presentation, so you can write it down right now or you can revisit the presentation. What do you feel in your body when you're triggered? When you notice an emotional reaction come up, where does this emotion live in your body, or what is happening when you are in this response? Do you notice that you get really tense? Do you notice that your heart starts to race? Do you notice that you don't have to go to the bathroom anymore, or that you're getting tunnel vision and you're focusing on a very small part of what's happening? Write down the details of the event. And even if you have to do this after the event, like later on in the day, at the end of the night, you're like, what triggered me today? Where did I feel that in my body? Number two is knowing what triggers you is reminding you of something you have experienced in the past. Again, a trigger. A trigger is a marker of something you've experienced in the past that is influencing your present moment. What about this experience feels familiar? So, this is a deeper self awareness question. What about this specific instance feels familiar to me? Again, we will cover lots of exercises. This is just to dip your toe into this material, but it might even be helpful to start to zoom out. So, okay, I'm in the experience. Now I'm going to zoom out and see if I can sit on a cloud and look below and say, where did I experience this in the past? And you might be able to identify some trauma or something that were dealing with in the past that is now being represented as your adult version of you. The more aware you are of your experience, the more that you can do to make positive changes. Second ingredient is taking radical responsibility. The choice to take our power back and focus on finding solutions rather than finding someone or something to blame. You are responsible for how you show up in your life and in your relationship. Radical responsibility helps you to move from the victim to an empowered creator of your reality. So, any instance that you have, I know this is a radical approach, but it goes without saying, radical responsibility. It's a radical approach to how you live life. But if you're constantly blaming other people, you're missing out on a significant lesson of what the experience is trying to teach you for your own development. So, the more you blame others, the more that lesson will come back to you. I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase, oh man, I'm dating the same person with a different face. Or man, I've been here before, or I've done this and I keep repeating this pattern. That's when you're not taking full responsibility for something. It just says, okay, they didn't learn the lesson there, so we'll bring it to them in another way. And oftentimes that way is louder or more difficult so that you can say, what am I repeating in this experience that is causing me to revisit this lesson? So, radical responsibility is that anything that happens, you're seeing your part in the situation. Third one is radical honesty. It's the practice of telling the whole truth without the white lies. When you feel something come up, radical responsibility is a practice of verbalizing it so that it doesn't turn into something that it's not. I see this a lot in the private work that I do. It's like one partner went so long without telling the truth that it built up this residue between them. And then they started to resent their partner, which, when you start to resent your partner, you create more and more disconnect and distance between you. You can practice with yourself daily by asking, what is truly keeping me from blank? What's truly keeping me from getting the job that I want? What's truly keeping me from being happy? What is truly keeping me from finding the relationship that I love or that I would be happy to be in? In what ways do I hold myself back? In what ways am I lying to myself? So write these down, pause the video again, write them down, and use them as a journaling exercise or a texting exercise in your phone, to uncover some ways and practices about just being very honest with yourself. Why haven't I found the relationship that makes me feel fulfilled? Why do I hold myself back? Why am I lying to myself? So starting to get very honest with yourself about these three topic areas is a good way to start practicing radical honesty. So, to wrap up this first week's lesson, what does an intimacy mindset mean to you? So, these are more journaling prompts, self awareness prompts. If you're with your spouse, partner, totally write them down and then you can share as a way to deepen that understanding. If you are single, this is just a good opportunity for you to start building self intimacy within yourself so that when you do have a partner, you can start to ask them these things, or you can call in someone who's already doing the work to be able to answer these questions. So, what does an intimacy mindset mean to you? You can use the information that we covered in the presentation. You can make your own definition, but just having that idea of, if I'm going into a relationship, how do I continue to maintain this intimacy mindset? Number two, what is one thing you want to be self aware of this week? What do you want to make sure you're focusing on, being aware of? Number three, what is one promise you want to make to yourself that you will keep this week? This is a way to work on radical responsibility. I'm going to drink one large glass of water every single morning right when I get up. And when you keep that promise, you are being responsible for making positive changes in your life. And the last one, what is one way I contribute to the success or failure of my relationships? This is radical honesty. Another journaling prompt from the last slide. What is one way that I contribute to the success or failure of my relationship? Just taking those all in. You can take a screenshot. You can write them all down on a piece of paper. They don't all have to be done tonight. This is a evolving homework assignment just to get you into the mindset of creating a daily practice to get you in the mindset of intimacy. So if you have questions with this material, you can email intimacyacademyconnect@gmail.com, or you can DM me on Instagram. However, you have been in contact with me prior to purchasing the course or starting the group. You can do the same thing with questions from this course. I'm super happy to answer any questions that come up or talk about any of the material further, because I know sometimes it can be new, or there might just be questions or comments that you want to make. And I'm super open to hearing anything that you have to say about any of this stuff. So I will see you next week for module 2. Let me know if you need anything, and have fun practicing an intimacy mindset.